Greetings, X, Twitter. Wanted to get back on live here for briefly because I've actually been thinking a lot about the events of yesterday, the acquittal in the impeachment trial of Ken Paxton, and the more I think about it, the more it becomes more questionable to me, and at the same time, the more it I don't want to say it bothers me, the more it. How can I explain? It makes me not uncomfortable, but I keep thinking about it. I keep reading the comments, everything that's been said and whatnot, and I keep coming back to these points, and it makes me think that there may or may not be more to the picture than what was let on. And I'll explain in just a second. I'm gonna make it brief. To start, it was reported during the impeachment that Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick received a $3 million donation. I think it was $1 million in donation and a $2 million loan from a Paxton Pro PAC or whatever they call it. I don't know. Defend Liberty. Now, I've heard this being referred in many statements and comments over the last 24 hours. And the more I think about it, the more I am reminded of the amount that Paxton was asking for the whistleblower settlement. If we remember, he was requesting $3.3 million to pay this settlement to the whistleblowers from the Texas House. The amounts are so eerie similar that I can't, in all honesty, I can't I can't erase it from my mind. I can't stop coming back and thinking about it. And the reason is this, because throughout the impeachment trial, it was referred, I think, 2 or 3 times that there was a phrase that was referred to. There are no coincidences in Austin. And that kind of stuck in my head the whole time I was watching the majority of the impeachment trial. Made me think. And I asked myself, why are these amounts so eerie similar? There must be a connecting factor. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But that caught my attention. And it's something that I really had a little bit of difficulty letting go. And the other thing that I found so eerily similar was the result of each vote, of each article of impeachment yesterday. There was numerous, if not almost, each article, the result was basically eerily the same. The same 14, I think, or 16 senators that voted to acquit voted exactly the same in each and every article. Now, another thing that I saw in feeds on X, on Twitter, that got my attention and made me come back to look at all this and think about it was a certain individual posted on X saying that Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick called 2 of the senators in the jury. He made it seem eerily suspicious that maybe Dan Patrick was giving instructions to the jurors as to how to vote. Now, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick says that they contacted him about procedural questions with respect to the impeachment trial, or the deliberations, I guess. Now, this is the thing. what what kind of really caught my attention was how rapidly Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick responded to that remark on X. He responded almost instantaneously, almost immediately, calling the individual, a flat out liar. And then I asked myself this question. I said, why did Dan Patrick have to respond so quickly? It's like he wanted to cut this guy off quickly and denounce him, but for what reason? Is there something more to that story? I don't know. I want to say there isn't, but I honestly don't know. And as the saying goes, that was being used throughout the trial, there are no coincidences in Austin. Makes me think twice. So it's these little things that makes me wonder, and I don't normally like to be a conspiracy theorist because I don't want to assume things that may or may not be true. But these are just a few of the little details that if you sit down and you review, if you actually ardently watched the impeachment trial or you rewatched the videos of the impeachment trial, I guarantee you're probably going to see a number of different instances that are questionable, and so and it'll make you wonder about the legitimacy of this impeachment process that just occurred over the last 2 weeks. I hope I'm wrong, but it's just too many details, questionable details, that it's hard not to think about, it's difficult to not start thinking along the lines of, is there more to the story? I would suggest to elected officials honest elected officials, and I even commented this to the Speaker of the Texas House on X, you might want to follow the money that was donated to Dan Patrick. If it was a legitimate donation, there won't be any problems. But I think we owe it, or certain elected officials owe it to themselves to follow the trail of that money or that donation. Because if it is moved again, wherever it may end up, may give us the answers to a lot of these questionable instances that we saw during the impeachment trial. I mean, and this may sound like an outrageous question, but I'm about to say, is it possible that this agency, or the Republicans, the GOP that is supporting Paxton, set this all up so that they could, because think about this, and it's been said, and I've said it myself, Paxton is still under federal investigation for the same charges that he was just acquitted from. And I started thinking of this as I was going through all this. Is it possible that the way this played out was to discredit the whistleblower's credibility so that the federal investigation would fall through and collapse? I mean, the thought crossed my mind, and the more I thought about it, the more it kind of started making sense to me. because, number one, the way the defense was vindictive and defamatory. To me, it was more than. I mean, in a trial, it's understandable that you're going to try to discredit the witnesses to prove your client's innocence. But I felt that some of the remarks that were given by the defense, especially in the closing, were a little more unusually vindictive and defamatory than in most trials that I've seen in the past. Was it the purpose to discredit these witnesses so that it would, in fact, affect and try to obliterate or collapse the federal investigation? I don't know. But it is something to think about. Whether it's outrageous, whether it's crazy, whether it's conspiratory. I mean, there's no way you can't walk away from it without thinking for a moment. You know, it's just so, these details so obviously stick out. You know, you have to think about them. You have to ask yourself for a moment, is this coincidence? And then, ironically, the catchphrase that was used throughout the trial, "There are no coincidences in Austin," really makes it that more intriguing to think about. Are these or are these not coincidences? And I just thought I would pass this along because I've been thinking about, as I said, the impeachment trial, the vote, how everything ended up here toward the end. And I started looking at these details, and the more I looked at them and the more I tried to walk away from them, the more they caught my attention. And in all honesty, it's hard not to assume and think about something that may or may not be accurate. We'll have to wait and see. In the meantime, we need to wait and see how this investigation with the feds against Paxton turns out. If they're going to indict him, and if they are going to indict him, will they be able to successfully convict him? And see what the end result after that is, because that's going to really, it's going to really make these little instances, these little questionable instances, much more credible in the end. I can guarantee you that. In the meantime, it's the waiting game. I just thought I'd run these thoughts by you guys because they were. The more I was thinking about it this morning and yesterday, the more I couldn't get it out of my system, out of my head. And I thought if I brought it online to you guys live, somehow, somewhere, somebody who may be thinking the same thing I am, saying, maybe this is crazy. But the more individuals are beginning to see these things and beginning to come across these same questionable instances, I think there's unity in numbers, and I think that if there's somebody that has the same manner of thinking, and we find out there's two of us, then maybe it's not so unusual. Maybe it's not so outrageous. Maybe there is something to it. That's just my train of thought, and I just thought I would, let you guys know about this. Well, thank you for your time, and I will be online another time to talk about other topics.